What have you accomplished from your gaming career? Are you a pro player making millions of dollars to play games? No, and you probably never will be. Are you a content creator making millions of dollars to play games? No, and you probably never will be. Did you rizz up that 9 out of 10 gamer girl that looks like she popped out of your favorite hentai? Don't worry, that one was a rhetorical question. We spend so much time on these video games for hours on end, and what exactly do we have to show for it? The sad reality is, for all of us non-casual gamers out there, a lot of very valuable time is being sunk into developing virtual skills and making progress in an imaginary world. It's a frustrating thing to consider, especially when a lot of people are pressed for purpose and meaning these days, crushed between the overwhelming cycle of school, work, home, eat, sleep, repeat. To be honest, my stance on this has flipped over the past 2 years as I have assessed and reassessed my relationship with video games over these years. Sometimes I'm inclined to think it's just another hobby, one that people have been rapidly learning to accept within their societal confines. Other times, I'm convinced that video games are the devil and they should be banned from existence altogether for the betterment of mankind. So in this video, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into the viability of spending time on video games. Is it just like any other hobby that society should learn to embrace, or are we just wasting precious hours of our lives on a useless endeavor that has no meaning whatsoever? To understand this question in its entirety, let's break the concept of video gaming down into simple pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. Gaming is essentially an interactive book. It's one thing to read a book about a fantasy adventure, it's another thing to watch a movie about a fantasy adventure, and it's a whole another thing to play in the world of that fantasy adventure. In a lot of aspects, video games are the most powerfully engaging form of media we currently have available, especially with the onset of true virtual reality still being a decade or two away. A good game will transport you into their world and flood you with sensory stimulation, the likes of which a book or movie simply cannot replicate. A great game will make your choices matter and give you a variety of different conclusions based on your interpretation of the material, just like a great movie with an ambiguous ending. One can argue it's almost the purest form of media and straight up the best way to enjoy any form of published work. Ever since I took a break from League and started my RPG arc around last year, I was mind blown by the beauty, depth, and meaning that's ingrained in these single player games. They're beautiful stories set in immersive environments with authentic characters and a gripping plot. And unlike a book or a movie where I'm a passive observer, in video games I'm an active part of the story. I have a hand in shaping how it unfolds. Over this past year alone, I've played some incredible games like Cyberpunk, Red Dead Redemption 2, KCD 2, and both reworked God of War games. These are stories and characters that will stay with me throughout the rest of my life, just like reading a great book or watching a thought-provoking movie. Anyone can appreciate and provide literary commentary on good media, but there's something about great video games being interactive that makes them especially memorable. Now, that's single-player RPGs, but what about PvP-focused esports titles like League of Legends? What good is there to be gained from them? Well, the biggest benefit I got out of League was a realization I could be good at things that I was once very bad at. I always tell the story on my channel that I was either blessed or cursed with being good at school and sports as a kid. My early success reinforced this fixed mindset within me, and for the longest time I felt that some people were just meant to be good at certain things while others weren't. So when I was in high school and got into League of Legends with the bros, I was crestfallen to find out that I fucking sucked at not only this game, but pretty much every game in general. It was something that just didn't come naturally to me, and even to this day I have to remind myself to use the lessons I've learned over a decade plus just to keep up in like heavy combat scenarios. But after playing League for well over 13 years and getting Diamond finally broke that fixed mindset for me, and I started to gain an appreciation for developing a process and sticking to a goal. It taught me the value of getting something right not on the first try, but on the 50th try. That's been an invaluable learning experience that I carry with me everywhere. No matter how hard something might seem at the start, I know that there's always a path to succeed at it. It's always about whether I want to sacrifice my time and energy for it. Now, while this is all rainbows and sunshine, this isn't exactly a perfectly accurate representation of video games and their place within our lives. And that brings us to the cons. Even though gaming was a tool that eventually broke my fixed mindset, it's not lost on me that gaming wasn't the only route that I had to take in order to break this toxic belief. I could have done pretty much anything that I sucked at to fix this dumbass mindset. It didn't have to be video games. I didn't have to waste hours and hours playing a video game to solve it. And this brings me to the first negative I have with video games, and it's that the skills it teaches are incredibly useless outside the game's universe. Having played League for as long as I have, I can confidently say I have pretty good reaction speeds and APM, and I can recognize patterns decently well and strategize against enemies. This is all well and good, but how does this shit help me live a better life? Where does my APM come into play when it comes to securing a meaningful job with good pay? I'm not saying that there's no space for leisure, but everyone knows that things come with a price. The amount of time I spent pursuing my rank goals are time I could have spent developing real-world skills. That's the most optimal way. Now, at least I have the cop out that I'm doing this to fuel my YouTube channel and increase financial gains from my side job, but how many ladder enthusiasts do you think can claim the same thing? You can just as easily get better at something by doing that thing alone. You don't have to waste time doing something else so you can get better at the thing you want to get good at. Like, for example, if you want to get better at talking to girls, you talk to girls. If you want to get fit, go to the gym. Do the thing. Unfortunately, some gamers, as well as 16 to 17-year-old Raybees, fell into the insane cope that getting better at video games was transferring over into every other facet of our lives. This line of logic is so cope because if you were to flip it on its head, it stops making sense real quick. For example, if I said I wanted to improve my calm under pressure when teamfighting in League of Legends, and then started taking public speaking classes, you'd call me a fucking nutjob. Or if I wanted to improve my APM, so I started masturbating twice as fast. Wait, that one actually worked. The point is, the argument is just as stupid the other way around. Even some of the positives that gaming can provide are still a massive sub-optimization of your time, and they're largely just cope for addicted gamers that are looking to justify their addiction. And that segues nicely into the next reason why I think games can be harmful, and it's that they screw up our dopamine receptors completely. Too much access to unfettered gaming and you literally become paralyzed to attempt to do anything in real life because it's just not as fun or entertaining. The whole point why games are really popular in the first place is that they mimic the pain and grind of real life without any of the real pain. Sure, I might have died like 40 plus times to promise consort Radon, but it's not like I'm going to go through real life hardship and pain. Just increasingly mild frustration as I slowly learn the combos and eventually killed the motherfucker. But it was easy for me to push through those 40 times because I was playing a game with all the spectacular visuals and the orchestral music playing in the background as I battled against arguably the toughest video game boss of all time. Note the change here. How many of you really try more than 40 times at anything when it comes to real life? Gym, a lot of people don't make it past the 40 days. Applying for jobs, most people don't put out 40 applications per week. Talking to girls, can you actually stand 40 rejections in public even if I told you it'll guarantee at least 8 or 9 numbers? You probably can't. The demonic thing about video games is that it makes the grind unnaturally fun, which makes it harder for you to grind in real life because your brain becomes acclimatized to the higher dopamine received from the fancy fireworks of gaming. While you may be motivated to go and do something with your life, life doesn't have the same bells and whistles nor the restart checkpoint button that video games have. As a result, you start to fall out of love with the genuine process of improving your life, and rejection starts to haunt you because you're surrounded by the curated virtual reality that addicts you with its delicious stimulation. Now, this can be quite problematic, especially when you're young, and it can be a total pain in the ass to try and overcome in the future. Now, with all of these reasons listed for each side, what are we thinking now? Admittedly, as someone who still plays and enjoys video games on a regular basis, I understand they're not actually the best use of my time. As far as hobbies go, there are way more productive hobbies out there than advancing my carpal tunnel syndrome and frying my fucking dopamine receptors. Hobbies that facilitate physical conditioning, hobbies that facilitate social connections, hobbies that give back to your community. I get that. The sooner some of you stare face to face with that reality, the quicker you can move on from your ignorant bliss. That being said, I'm still going to continue to play games. To me, I guess it's the same as when people have their vices like drinking, smoking, or drugs. Now, as for me, I drink very sparingly, smoked once, and I've never done drugs, so I can't 100% relate. But imagine that they know what they're doing isn't 100% healthy for their body, but they choose to do it anyways and derive some sort of satisfaction from it. Those vices can still have a positive correlation under the right context. Drinking is fine if you do it socially and once in a while. Drugs is fine if you do it recreationally. And smoking, well, smoking is just gonna shit all around. I live my life treating video games like alcohol. I like playing them with people. I understand it's not the best, most optimal use of my time, and I've chosen to accept that reality. The whole point of this video was not to try and get you guys to swing one way or another. I don't care whether you delude yourself into thinking that your gaming time somehow has positive ripple effects throughout your life, or you detest the existence of video games and are lobbying to limit or ban them from the use or even the general populace. I really don't give a fuck, guys. This video is more about encouraging acceptance. For the longest time, I couldn't accept video games could be both good and bad at the same time, and I childishly wrestled with myself to deliver a final verdict on the matter. But the older I get, the more I realize it's all fucking useless. Just like alcohol, when enjoyed responsibly and intentionally, video games are just as truly life-changing as books or movies. Perhaps even greater because of the active immersion element. For as long as I live, I'll never ever forget my Cyberpunk or Red Dead Redemption 2 playthroughs, or my getting Diamond for the first time after 13 years of grinding my ass off. These are some core lifetime memories, and I carry them with the same cherish I afford to happy birthdays, memorable nights out, or reading a life-changing book. That being said, I've only reached this level of nuanced equilibrium after being addicted to League from the ages of like 15 to 20 and destroying some of my most formative years of my life. I've been at both sides of the aisle, and my mistake was trying to commit to one side and make it part of my identity going forward. For any of you wrestling with this dichotomy yourself, I hope this video gives you permission to embrace both sides of the aisle at once. At the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what things you want to aspire towards and how much you're willing to sacrifice in order to achieve them. The older I get, the less willing I am to sacrifice the things I love for the things that society wants me to love, while also accepting that things that I love aren't the most optimal ways to spend my time. I get that. It's less of a balance in lifestyle and more of a nuance in mindset. For any of you who want to discuss this or any other gaming psychology topics further, feel free to hit up my Discord and stop by for a chat. Do the usual YouTube stuff, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.